I'm making you really check your history and yourself.
Stop playing politics with my Punanny. Stop playing politics with my Punanny. Hey, 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 Republicans. I see you called on your fellow man. All dicks and no nuts. Then you rush to call me a slut. I'm standing up for what is mine. Call me the rib, but I'm really the spine of this whole great nation. Ain't gonna put me back on the plantation. No, stop playing politics with my Punanny.
Hey, greetings, family. How's everybody doing? Welcome to episode 9 of Punanny Politixxx. Oh my God, I cannot believe we're at episode 9. I cannot believe it. But we are here at episode 9, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm glad that you are here with me tonight. And we are super excited to have back with us tonight Senator Pat Spearman. If you were here for episode 3, then you know who I'm talking about. If you were not here for episode 3, it's all good because you're about to find out. So I'm really excited about this episode 9. And I'm so excited. How excited I am? I got some new hair. That's how excited I am about episode 9. But you know, it's Scorpio season. I am a Scorpio. My birthday is coming up. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go get myself a little hair for the season. So that's what we're doing here in Scorpio season. So again, welcome to episode 9. So we're just gonna get into it. You know, it's so funny because I have said in the past, like every time I feel like I sign off from the show, like something happens, and I don't feel like something happened this week, like right away. But I keep finding it really interesting that, I mean, not interesting, but yeah, I'll just say interesting because that's the best word I can think of right now. But this Breonna Taylor case, child, these Breonna Taylor ancestors, Breonna Taylor herself, she is not going away. She is not going away. So we're going to bring our girl up. There is our girl, beautiful mural of Breonna Taylor. So what happened this week with Breonna Taylor's case? Well, I think it was maybe a week or so ago, but one of the jurors basically started talking. Like they were like, listen, we didn't, the grand jury did not really get all the information that everybody thinks that, they got. So basically what has happened this week is that, again, the grand juror, this particular juror is speaking out and saying that they didn't agree, and meaning, I think it's like actually the whole grand jury did not agree that Breonna's shooting was justified. They didn't agree. And that is the coming after the Kentucky judge has ordered, so before that, there was a Kentucky judge that ordered that the case files be released to look into if publicly elected officials are being honest. Now, listen, we know that there's some shenanigans going on down there in Kentucky. Like we know that there's shenanigans going down. So as we know, the only charge that was brought was wanton endangerment. And the juror is saying that there was nothing that was brought to them speaking directly to Breonna Taylor's murder, meaning no charges were put on the table that were speaking directly to the murder. And of course, we know, Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General, said that, that the case had called for excessive force. He was like, that's just what it was. But this grand juror right now is saying that that the laws were not explained to them during the proceeding, basically like what homicide laws, like what it is, really breaking it down for them. And they added that the self-defense and justification laws were not explained to them. So there's a lot of things that didn't happen, in this grand jury. And now a lot of these grand jurors are trying to get some answers and get some clarity. So now this case, it's not going away. It's not going away. And it shouldn't go away. It shouldn't go away because it's really, it's really ridiculous what has happened, but we know this. So anyway, normally, we don't hear these things with grand juries. Usually like grand jury happens, whatever happens, happens. If it doesn't go your way, it doesn't go your way. It's like open and shut kind of, and you don't hear from these jurors anymore. So this is kind of unprecedented. And also Daniel Cameron said that while he disagrees with the judge's decision to relook at this situation, he's not going to appeal it, which is also very rare. So again, great state of Kentucky. We're going to have a lot to say about Kentucky when we get Senator Spearman on with us in a moment. But I'm just saying, like I always feel like I know that there's a lot of energy around keeping this case alive and around keeping, making sure that justice is really done for Breonna Taylor. And I'm telling you, I feel like there's some, it's not just folks on the ground. There's some higher energies that are at work around keeping this case going and getting this and getting real justice for her. So give thanks for all those energies, but that is happening out there in Kentucky. And again, we're going to get more into Kentucky. So we are still in this season of voting, meaning voter registration. There are still some states where you can still register to vote. So in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Iowa, Montana, Washington State, Utah, you still have time to register to vote if you have not registered yet. So if you don't live in one of those states, but you got some cousins in those states, call your cousins or whoever you know and make sure that they are registered to vote, or get somebody or tell them to grab somebody that they know and get them registered to vote. So again, those states are Connecticut, Massachusetts, Iowa, Montana, Washington State, Utah. And looks like the last day for voting, registering to vote, I should say, will be Connecticut, which would be on the 27th of this month. So Connecticut, my neighbor state, you know what I'm saying? Make sure you get folks out there registered to vote. Also, if you want to mail in your vote, so if you want to get a ballot to mail in, so these are your dates. You can just take a quick look. I'm gonna leave it up there for a second. You can look quickly. You can find your state if you're somebody that really wants a mail-in ballot request. So these are the deadlines to request a mail-in ballot. So get that in. Also, voting has begun in a lot of states. I know here in New York, voting starts on Saturday. Is it Saturday? Yeah, it starts on the 24th. So is that Saturday? Yeah, it is. It starts on the 24th. So, I know, like I said, early voting has started in some states already. And maybe, so if that's something that you really want to do, there are your dates. Things might have already started in your state. In fact, a lot of states look like things have started. So early voting, then you won't have to be online. I mean, I guess there's early voting lines like in Georgia too, but I know on the 3rd, it's going to be extra, extra special. So, if you can vote early, make that happen. Also, a couple of things. So I think I had like early on in the show, meaning like, early episodes, I was talking about becoming a poll worker because they need poll workers this season because of COVID. And a lot of poll workers are usually older, retired folks, maybe folks that are more susceptible to COVID. So maybe folks won't be as willing or able, to be at the polls all day. So I volunteered to be a poll worker. So a couple things. And this is not about being a poll worker, but just so you know, you cannot vote twice. So if you get an absentee ballot and then you decide, you know what, and you have it at your house and you're like, you know what, I think I want to go in person. Okay, fine. Go in person, but do not mail that ballot back in. You can only vote once. You can also take your absentee ballot to the polls, and at least in New York, I know they have boxes that you can just drop your ballot in and you don't have to, stand online, do all this stuff. You can just drop your ballot in and you can go on your merry way. So, but again, you can only vote once. Also, what I learned here in New York is, and I'm gonna try and make this short and sweet. Say, for instance, you end up at your wrong polling station. Like say, I'm just gonna use New York as an example because I'm here. Say you were living in the Bronx and you decided you were gonna move to Brooklyn. And this is all happening during the season. And then you go back, say you're like, oh, I didn't change my address and like, I'm going to go back to the Bronx and vote. So you go up to your old polling station and they're like, oh, you know what? We actually moved you back to Brooklyn. You're like, dang, I got to go, I got to go back to Brooklyn. I don't have time. Here's the thing. You need to vote at the polling station that you are designated at because I learned that if you say they'll give you an affidavit ballot at the, polling station where you don't necessarily live or, but it is not going to count. Okay. It's not going to count. So here, make sure you go to the polling station that you are designated. Because otherwise, they're going to hand you that ballot. They're going to let you fill it out at that polling station that you don't belong to. But that joker is not going to count. So I don't know if that's the case in other states, but that's the case here in New York. So all my New York folks that are watching this, make sure you know where your polling station is and go there if you are planning to go in person, whether that's early voting or on November 3rd. All right, that's my PSA for you on that. And finally, because I always try and do some little up, little down, little up. Lovecraft Country. Who watched Lovecraft Country? Listen, I have not talked about Lovecraft Country for the whole season because I just wanted to be in it and just be with it and just live in it and all that kind of stuff. But it ended on Sunday. Well, the first season ended on Sunday. And let me tell you something. If you have not gotten into Lovecraft Country, just get into it. If you don't have HBO, get somebody's password. That's all I'm going to say. Because it was so really, really wonderful and amazing. And I know the question everybody always has is like, well, what is it about? And it's like, it kind of reminds me of like, I'm going to date myself right now, but like there was a show on many moons ago called Twin Peaks. And people used to always be like, well, what is that show about? I can't explain. You just need to go watch it. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I feel about Lovecraft Country. And it's so layered, a lot of nuance, amazing actors, amazing writing. Black women at the forefront, like serious, like really getting it done. And I'm just going to shout out the actors on the show because for real work, Journey Smollett, Jonathan Majors, Anjanou Ellis. Listen, Anjanou Ellis, I just want to say something because a lot of people think that this, like when you're in this art world, you're acting, you're doing all these things, but Anjanou Ellis, she's one of these sisters. She's been doing this work. She's been putting in her numbers. And right now I feel like she's getting a lot of the reward. Like she's reaping the benefits right now. And she is doing the damn thing. Like, she's doing the damn thing. Wumi Mosaku. I'd never seen this sister before. She's killing it. Wumi Osaku. Michael K. Williams, he's never wrong. He's always right. You know what I'm saying? Courtney B. Vance, also always right. Jada Harris, young sister who's new. I had not seen her before. Young woman, really amazing. Jamie Chung, amazing, brilliant. Erica Tazzle, Joaquina Kalukango. Again, sisters I did not know. Regina Taylor. Actually, I knew Erica Tazzle and Regina Taylor, but also sisters who like Black women who like, you see their face, you like, oh, I know, like people just work. Look, actors work, like working actors, like that's what this thing is. Like everybody's not out here, a superstar, but people out here at work, you know what I'm saying? And it's just really beautiful to see. And even Abby Lee's the white woman in the show. Listen, you acting when the white woman, like you just mad at her. She's doing her work. She's doing what she's supposed to do. She's amazing. Like everybody was so good. And the question, of course, on the table is, will there be a season 2? When is season 2? All that kind of good stuff. I mean, there was a little foreshadowing to a possible season 2, but TV is fickle. So get in there and watch it so that HBO knows that it's, they should bring it back. Lovecraft Country. I'm just giving it love. Like I said, I haven't said anything about it the whole season, but it's really stellar work. Yes. So we are at that moment. It is Scorpio season, as I said, yay. And I'm a Scorpio. Shout out to all my Scorpios out there. And but tonight is the first quarter moon in Aquarius. So here is our forecast. The first quarter moon in Aquarius occurs on the morning of October 23rd. This waxing first quarter phase, 1 week after the Libra new moon, is the point at which intentions set and ideas conceived begin to sprout and grow. As the energy is building toward the culminating full moon next week, now is the optimal time to take action on intentions you may have set at the beginning of the lunar cycle last week. Use this auspicious moon to make contact with others who can shine a light on your intentions by offering support and positive feedback. While the themes activated by last week's new moon in Libra are relationships, artistic endeavors, and finding balance, the Aquarius first quarter moon presents the perfect moment to listen to other points of view, reflect on them, then consider how you can use all the information and resources at your disposal to make a stand for independence. Think about where in your life compromise is no longer necessary and diplomatically adjust accordingly. Even though the sun has now moved into Scorpio, we are still in a Libra lunar cycle, and it behooves us to act with grace and tact. Nevertheless, gaining clarity at this time around the expectations of others and society which don't suit you can be a catalyst for a much needed and satisfying rebellion. With the U.S. election just over a week away, many of us may wake up this morning with our minds on freedom. If Scorpio season happens to intensify your feelings on the potential outcome of the election, find your like-minded community with whom to march toward the result you want to see. Those of us surviving 2020 are living under skies that herald upheaval and revolution in society around the world. The Aquarius first quarter moon brings into focus ideals surrounding social justice and causes of liberty and favors groups formed around these ideals. While we are all still affected by Mercury retrograding through Scorpio, instances of retrosexuality may arise, that is, revisitations with past lovers who tend to appear during retrogrades. If this is an opportunity presented to you, just remember we are all still in a pandemic. Do you trust your ex? And if you've become aware that all the strain, strum, and drang this year being attributable to the long-term occupation of Capricorn by Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter, take heart in that these planets are finally experiencing a transit of benevolence this week from loving Venus. Make space in your life for love and beauty and lean in to smell the roses. This week's moon forecast was brought to you by Moist Paula at Zodiac Soundtracks. Welcome to the first quarter moon in Aquarius. Hey, yes, first quarter moon in Aquarius. Thank you, Moist Paula, always bringing us the fabulous forecast. So we are excited to bring to the stage my girl, Senator Pat Spearman from Nevada. Yay! As always, everybody's coming to the stage. It's so good to see you.
Thanks for inviting me. Yeah.
So there's so much to talk about. I feel like I'm like, where do we begin? Is the question. Like the forecast said, we are really like just a little over a week, I guess, out of the election.
Yeah.
So, let's get into, like I was saying, there's still some states are still able to register voters. That's almost pretty much done. But where are we? Like, what should we be focusing on right now? What's the thoughts?
Well, before we do that, I'm Gemini, right?
I did not know you're Gemini.
I'm a Gemini. So whenever I date myself, unlike the other signs, there's actually two people there. Right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So a little bit of humor. Here's what we ought to be focusing on right now. It should be apparent to everybody that they are afraid of our vote. I mean, you cannot deny this. They are afraid of our vote. They're doing everything to try to tamp down the vote. They're doing everything to try to reinforce this lie that your vote doesn't count. Let's look at what happened yesterday. You know, I'm in a meeting and I get a text from somebody that says, you know, go turn the TV on. So I turn the mic down in the meeting and I go turn my TV on. And I'm looking, what? And it's Director of National Intelligence, also known as DNI, Mr. Ratcliffe. And then it's also Mr. Wray, who is the head of the FBI. Now, Ratcliffe, he doesn't have any receipts. He has nothing. He has already proven that he's a sycophant to Trump. He carries the water for him. And so when he's talking about, well, yeah, we've got this information that Iran and Russia have, you know, stolen some information, some voter information, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm listening to him and I'm thinking, something's wrong with this, you know. And then he inserts really quickly. He says, yeah, and so we were able to find this out because the president has given us all of the resources that we need to try to get to the bottom of this. And then he says something else again. He says, and so I just want to thank the president for, and I'm like, no. It's like the Wizard of Oz. Okay? Right. You know, you better watch the guy behind the curtain.
Right. Okay?
Watch the guy behind. It was almost like a puppet show. You know, like Donald Trump was behind his back, you know, opening his mouth and talking to him. And I'm thinking, okay. Now this is not new news. But then he says, and we've been able to determine that they are trying to interfere with our election so that it will benefit Joe Biden. No, that will benefit President Trump's opponent. And I'm like, oh no, dude, that no. Okay. And if you were poking up, was it the guy with the long nose? You know, you was it Pinocchio? Oh,
Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Pinocchio. Yeah.
I got another one here. Okay. So if you were Pinocchio, man, your nose would be so long that you would not even be able to get out of the room. Right. It's what they call those 5 pants on hire signs, 5 pants on fire. And when he said that, I'm like, that's not true. Because we've always known since 2016 that the Russians benefited Donald Trump.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And Shelley, and let me say this because, you know, just it really gets on my nerves when I hear people say this, you know, well, you know, Trump, you know, last time in 2016, everybody thought that he was going to lose, but Trump won. I'm like, no, he didn't.
Right.
No, he didn't. You better tell the truth. I said, well, you know, he's out of money now, and he didn't have a whole lot of money in 2016. I said he didn't need a lot of money. He didn't need a lot of money because all he had to do was go out and say something stupid, and then the media would carry it and parrot it for the next 3 days.
And they jumped on everything that he said. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
They have 15 people on their show, you know, over the course of 7 days, and they'd all be asked the same question. I'm like, okay, he doesn't need money because you all are advertising. You all are lifting up what he's saying. You know, why would you amplify this junk? So he didn't win. If you take into consideration that Hillary Clinton, and I'm not getting paid to do this. I just, you know, as a woman, I hate it when people down other women and then women can't see what just happened, you know, to the system. They just can't see. So they spent like 40 years tearing down her reputation, 40 years. And you know when it started? It actually started when she went into the South, right after she graduated from college, went into the South and exposed some private schools that were using public money to get around Brown v. Board of Education. Down there, and she posed as, she's white, okay? And she posed as the wife of a man who was getting ready to be transferred. And if you think about it, you know, in the 60s, that's what they did. You know, women didn't work. They did their husband's bidding. And she posed as that. And she did it a couple of times. And she was able to show where those places were not abiding by the law and using public funds. So right there, they didn't like her. Fast forward to when her husband, Bill Clinton, was governor. and she was the first lady. They did not like the fact that she would not drop her maiden name. They didn't like the fact that she was going to work as an attorney. They didn't like the fact that she wasn't going to play the real cute Southern belle. And she was like, no, I'm not doing that. And so between that and the programs that she set up in Little Rock to benefit the African American community, who many of them had a high school diploma but did not have a high school education. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So they're in very low service types of jobs. And I'm not talking about the job is low. I'm just saying it's low paid. Yeah. They didn't like that. And so, every time she did something to benefit Black folks, she got attacked. And they decided very early, if she was willing to put her life on the line for Black people, she wasn't somebody that the white folks, okay, that wanted to stay prejudiced, they weren't going to have any of that. So 40 years, okay? Mm-hmm. Do that 40 years, and the media continues to give him all of this. And then all of a sudden, on October the 28th, the Friday before the election, Comey comes out and does something the FBI director has never done. We're going to, we saw some things on the email server, and we're going to reopen the case of Secretary Clinton's emails. They have never done that. Never done that.
Okay. But I'm almost like, why are we even surprised though, like about the length that these folks will go to maintain their positions of power? I think that, to me, I think as Black people, we understand that. I think it's sometimes like white women don't understand that, you know what I'm saying? That they are, you think that you are in these positions because you're standing, quote unquote, by your man. But it's really, they really don't have that vested interest in lifting you up. Exactly.
And I'm going to fast forward here. I'm just trying to show you what lengths people will go to.
Yeah, sure.
Who have been downtrodden and marginalized in their place.
Sure.
So they did all of that, and because Comey did what he did, you saw the ratings. You saw the polls starting to go down.
Right.
And a lot of people who were going to vote for her, bought the notion, well, if we elect her, it's going to be a constitutional crisis, on and on and on.
Sure.
Surprising, everything that the current occupant of the White House said about her are the things that he's done.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Things that he's done. So here we are right now, and keep in mind, the night before the election in November, I watched. Everybody wondered, said, why is Trump going to Michigan? That's a Democratic stronghold. Why is he going to Michigan? And I watched the last part of his rally, and he looked into the camera and he said, my friends, this is the last time we will have to protect our country. If we don't do it now, we cannot do it 4 years from now. This is our only chance. And I looked at that and I said, uh-oh, he's talking to the Proud Boys. That's who he's talking to.
Yeah.
And so those folks who needed an excuse to jump over to him, they jumped off.
You just gave him the signal. So yeah.
And people were, voting for third-party candidates. And I'm like, can you all just understand this one thing? And some of those third-party candidates are being funded by people who don't want Hillary to win. So you got the Russians, you got, the media, that's complicit, and you have Comey, who is complicit as well. And, there's something, sometimes people do things, and I want to put a PS at the bottom and say, I saw that karma. I saw that. So now here we are now, and they've never stopped. They've never stopped since 2016 trying to take our vote away from us.
Right.
And so for the people who say, well, nothing will matter, and they're going, no, it's not. No, it's not. They want you to believe that. Don't pay any attention to what Ratcliffe said. Okay. He's a loon. He's a loon. Christopher Wray comes behind him, and he doesn't say anything about is Russia and Iran, and they're benefiting, Trump's opponent. He doesn't say anything like that. What he says is that we are still very diligent doing our job to protect the right to vote for American citizens. We are still doing that. And so there's no need to be afraid. I'm like, okay, that's the one you believe, not the guy who's trying to do the smoke and mirrors thing. So please, anybody who's listening, wherever you are, you can call your Secretary of State's office and ask them, am I too late? Can I register in person? There's some states that have same day registration.
Right.
Nevada is one of them. Okay. If you have a driver's license and you don't get registered, if you have a driver's license, you can register to vote on the same day.
Wow.
It was all the way up until, I want to say it was like last Saturday or something. You could register online through the DMV. And so we're trying to make it easier for people to be able to vote. Now, here's why it's important. We've seen what happens to members of the Latinx community who are coming here for asylum.
Right.
And even those who aren't coming for asylum, guess what? They're going to come, and the same people that are standing up talking about, we don't want no Mexicans in here, they are the same people that will go to the corner, come on, and see them sitting there, hello, and know they're sitting there waiting to go to work, and they'll pick them up and they'll take them wherever it is to do it. And what they should be making $150 a day, they'll give them $15.
Right.
And what can they do?
Right.
What can they do? Nothing. Okay.
Right.
So we got to vote. We got to vote. Our lives depend upon it. That's exactly what we have to do.
And it's also interesting. I mean, today it was interesting because I don't know if you saw that there was a President Obama did like a roundtable in Philadelphia today. Yeah. And, one of the things that stood out because people were asking him, of course, questions about voting and getting people to register and get out there. But, the thing that really stood out for me is that there's people, and I know this because I've known these people who talk about like voting won't matter. Right. But they're also people, they are folks that don't vote. So I'm just like, how are you going to say like, you're not registered to vote? You've never voted, and you're going to say that your vote doesn't count, but you've never even attempted to vote. So it's like saying, it's like if you were a lifelong vegetarian telling somebody that chicken don't taste good. Like, how do you know? You've never had chicken. so you don't know.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's interesting because he was also saying that when he ran, that 60% of Black folks voted. 60%. That wasn't even 100%. 60%. Then he said in that midterm that, of course, everything went to hell in 2010. Only 35% of us voted. Right. So it's like, how can you say again? And I'm just saying this to the folks, as you say, who are out here listening, like to say that your vote doesn't matter or won't count or any of that kind of stuff. It doesn't make any sense, especially when everybody's not participating. Because if everybody was participating, it would be a whole different conversation. And like you said, they don't want everybody to participate because they know it would be a whole different conversation.
So here's the thing. And I'll use this analogy, okay? When I was stationed in Texas, they had this thing called cow chip throwing contest.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I had no idea what that was.
Okay.
No idea what that was. Until, organizational day came and, all the officers had to sign up and, we were going to throw the cow chips. And I get there and it stinks. I'm like, so where are the chips? And they're like, right there. I'm like, right where? They're right there. I'm like, that ain't chips. That's dumb. Okay.
Right.
That ain't chips. Okay. It's like it, but it ain't chip. Okay.
Right.
So you got to pick it up, and I'm watching some of my colleagues, some other officers go through, and they're lifting up this stuff with their bare hands. I'm like, I ain't doing that. So I went over to the mess truck, and I said, I need a pair of gloves, the gloves that you use to serve stuff. I need a pair of gloves. Okay, and they said, okay, so Lieutenant Spearman, here's the trick. You got to make sure you get a chip that's hard, because if you don't, it's going to break apart and you won't be able to throw it, right?
Right.
And so a couple of people didn't get one that was hard. A couple of people in front of me didn't get one that was hard. So when I walked up to the line, I accidentally stepped in something. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh, right?
Yeah.
And so then I go on and throw it. I said, I can't throw it. This stuff is on my shoe, So I said, somebody else go. I took my shoe off and I went over to the curb and I started, trying to wipe the stuff onto the curb. That was only part of it. I stayed for about another 40 minutes and then I said, I got to go home. And I took the shoes off and I put them in my trunk and I drove home barefoot. Okay. When I got home, I looked at the shoes in my trunk and I'm like, I'll never be able to wear these again. So then I said, wait a minute, I can use them in the garden. So I took them out of the trunk and took them in the back and I used the water hose and I squirted water on them. I hosed them down and I put some bleach on them and I put some peroxide on it and I put some Lysol on it, and everything and put fire on them. I can put this stuff on my feet. Okay?
Right.
Smelling like that? No. And I had to do all of that just so I could get the smell off. Now, here's the analogy. Some people voted in 2008 and they forgot that Barack Obama said, yes, we can. Not yes, I will. He said, yes, we can.
Amen.
And so we come into office and people said, okay, and then they sat back and said, okay, let's see what you're going to do. What do you mean what you're going to do? We elect the first Black president after 400 years of being oppressed, and you expect the Black guy to come in and be the Messiah? That ain't going to happen. So people sat out in 2010. And then when 2012 comes, they go, well, why should I vote? I voted for him in 2008. He didn't do nothing for Black people. Well, really? Really? Yes, he did. So here's the thing. Everybody that's listening, understand that this country has stepped into some cow dung.
Hello.
All right? And it's going to take more than trying to wipe it off on the curb. It's going to take more than just water. It's going to take a lot. And they count on us being inconsistent with our voting.
Yes.
They count on us to show up in the presidential years and not in the presidential election and not show up during the midterms. And during the midterms, that's when they run the crazy people.
Yes.
Okay? Because they know we ain't gonna show up. That's
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't say crazy. I'm insulting them. So they run the people that have these bizarre ideas, right? Like QAnon, that kind of carrying on. They run those people because they know we're not gonna show up. We have got to show up every election. And I'm not just talking about at the federal level. We need to be showing up right now at the municipal level. And let me say this, because I want to connect the dots. The last couple of days, we got everybody thought it was a surprise, but we knew it wasn't, because we knew that when the AG came out there and said, this is what the evidence shows, we all knew that was not right. If you're listening to me in Kentucky, if you live in Kentucky, you will live in Kentucky. You have somebody who lives in Kentucky. You have somebody who lives in Kentucky and knows how to spell Kentucky. Hear what I'm getting ready to say. On felonies, there is no statute of limitation in Kentucky.
Wow.
Let that sit for a minute. No statute of limitation for felony in Kentucky. Wow. Here's what that means. Start now by getting rid of McConnell. Because anybody who will jump through hoops to confirm someone who obviously is not ready to go to the Supreme Court. She couldn't even tell us the 5 things that the First Amendment covers. And somebody who says that, a racial slur is not grounds for, it won't protect you if somebody does that. Hey, come on, y'all. Start with McConnell. Start with McConnell. The next thing you do, the next election, the next state election, I believe, is the one that the governor and the constitutional officers, of which the attorney general is one of.
Right.
Right. So if that election takes place in 2023 or 2022, they are counting on the people who were saying justice for Breonna to have forgotten what happened. And they are counting on that message of your vote doesn't count, keeping them away from the polls. Hear what I said. In Kentucky, unless they change it, in Kentucky, there is no statute of limitations for a felony. Watch this. Municipal elections matter. because that's where the mayor and the city council members are elected.
Yes.
They are the ones, unless you have a county a county police force, the mayor and the city council are the ones that appoint the police chief. They're the ones that approve of the personnel policies. They do all of that. Okay. So people are marching in the streets and they're like, you're asking Joe Biden, well, what are you going to do about Breonna? He's going to do as much as he can at the presidential level, but the place where you're going to get real justice is going to be at the municipal level. And when the AG runs for re-election, y'all going to show up and you're going to tell him, this is what the evidence says. Okay. You said, okay, we're going to show you, this is the evidence.
Right.
And you all show up now. Get rid of McConnell. You show up when the municipal elections are there, and Kentucky has county government too. When you show up for all of those elections, just keep showing up, and eventually, just like my tennis shoes, after you pour water on them, after you put bleach, after you put peroxide, after you put Lysol, I'm telling you, I did everything. And finally, they were clean enough for me to leave in the garage.
Right.
I went to the house because even though they were clean, something about that. I just,
I understand.
I
think that's something. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you got to keep showing up. You got to keep showing up. Felonies, there's no statute of limitations, meaning someone who is charged with a felony, there is no statute of limitations. They can be prosecuted at any time.
Yeah, anytime. And I just want to say, just backing up a little bit as we are telling people to vote, I was also, I guess made aware or, just started to think about the fact that we're often out here, telling people to vote, but then there's also a whole bunch of folks that don't really understand what that even really means. I think a few weeks ago, I think Shaquille O'Neal had said, shared that I think it was the first time that he registered himself to vote, and really just because he didn't understand the process. And I think that's the thing too. So I feel like in this moment where we really are voting for our lives, this is also maybe a time for us to say, okay, we need to start sharing with each other actually how this all works. Because I think when we start running up into these elections, we get into this space of vote. And people decide, okay, yeah, I'm going to go vote. But then they get inside there, get to the ballot, to the polls and look at the ballot, and they're just looking at it confused sometimes. You only know the person that's on the ballot, the presidential line. You won't know anything else that's happening. I know that I'm not alone. When the first time I ever voted or was in a voting booth was with my grandmother. My grandmother would take me with her, when she would vote. So I grew up with that, but everybody doesn't have that sort of thing. So I think at this moment, I think it's the time to start really educating people around, the process and what these different levels of things are, because you're absolutely right. If, when Joe Biden gets elected president, there is only so much that he can do about Breonna Taylor. It's really about Kentucky, and same with all these other, same with George Floyd in Minnesota, only so much Minnesota's going to have to handle that. Right.
Yeah.
So I think those are the things that people don't really quite understand because the energy right at this moment is so much about the presidential situation.
So let me say this. Years ago, I want to say it's maybe about 15 years ago, NDRE had this song, said, I wish there was a video game to teach you your ancestor's name. I wish there was an 1-800 number to tell you come and help your brother, something like that. And because that's what we pay attention to. So Shelley, here's my challenge to you and anyone else who has a platform like this. Once Joe Biden and Kamala Harris win, don't stop talking about this.
Oh,
At least once a quarter, if not more. Keep talking about this. Find out when the elections are taking place below the federal level. Talk about this and bring people in like me. I'll come back as often as I can. Okay. But bring some folks in from Kentucky. Bring some people in from Texas, okay? And make sure that they're talking about the importance of elections. Now, there are some people right now who don't know whether they're going to vote for Mitch McConnell or not. They're going to vote for Biden and Kamala, okay? And then they're going to stop. But check this out. You know what? The judges that will review that case, once felony charges are brought, the judges that will review that case beyond what's there for Kentucky are judges that Mitch McConnell appointed.
Right.
Right? And so you want justice for Breonna? Get that dude out.
Right.
Get that dude out, okay?
Yeah,
and make sure that we take control of the Senate. Because we have the House of Representatives and we have the Senate and the presidency, we can get some things done. And you cannot vote in 2020 and then walk away in 22. You got to come right back.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
Make sure that happens. So when it comes to understanding voting, I'm hoping that somebody will put together a video game. Or write a song. Okay. Right. You know, it's not something hip hop, something, anything. Okay, so that people will learn those words, and as they learn those words, they'll learn the strategy of voting. Because the people who always vote, they have known for a long, long time. I don't know if people heard about the Southern strategy. Lee Atwater, you know, rest his soul. He's gone away from here now. He's someplace else. Anyway, so he came up with the Southern strategy, which was if the Republicans could get a stronghold in the South, and if they could sweep the Southern states, they would be assured of getting the presidential election every time. And while we weren't looking, that's exactly what they did. Okay, right. So they've had their eye on long game. We got to see long game. The judges that have been appointed, guess what? Let us get Biden and Harris in there in that administration, and then people start looking at the records and the qualifications of those judges. Guess what? You can impeach a judge. Right. Right. If you don't believe that, you know, Alcee Hastings. I'm old enough to remember Alcee Hastings. He was a judge in Florida, and they cooked up some kind of crap, and it wasn't even true. But they cooked up some kind of crap, and they impeached him. Okay. You know what I'm saying here? Just because they made those appointments, it doesn't have to stand. Right. But listen, they believe that it's going to stand because they think we're not going to show up. Right. Proven wrong. Proven wrong. They think we're not going to show up. So elections matter. And let me say this. You know, we see all those lines, you know, wrapped around buildings and wrapped around. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. In 2013, when the Supreme Court brought the decision back on Shelby v. Holder, I looked. I said they just gutted the Voting Rights Act, and I called our legal people for the legislature, and I said, "What can I do? I know I can't do anything, you know, to force stuff at the federal level, but I said, but what can I do in Nevada that will make sure that our rights are protected?" Right. He said, "Well, we already have a statute for that." I said, "Yeah," but she said, "You can always put it in the Constitution." I said, "That's exactly what I'm going to do. That's exactly what I'm going to do." So the Bill of Rights, that is right now a Nevada statute, we lifted all of that language, and I ran a bill in 2015, but the Republicans wouldn't hear it. So I brought it right back in 17. We heard it. And we got it passed, and I brought it back in 19. It was heard, and it was passed. Okay. Now we don't need the governor's signature on ballot initiatives, and so now this is the first election after that has been passed by 2 consecutive legislative sessions. Okay, and so now the people have a right to say yes, we do want voters' rights in the Constitution. When Amy, whatever her name is, from Indiana, said, you know, well, she didn't know whether voter intimidation was against the law. Guess what? When we pass this and put this in our Constitution in Nevada, it will be against your constitutional rights. Okay. Right. Yeah. if putting it in the Constitution means you can't be intimidated, means that you have to be able to get a ballot that is readable, that is not marked. You have to have your questions answered. You have to be able to vote in a place where you can understand the language. You have to be able to stand in line, stay in line. If it's 7 o'clock and you've already been in line, stay in line until you vote. There are about 11 things on there, and I sent you the link to Ballotpedia. If you can just put that someplace so people can look at it.
Absolutely.
And my challenge would be to everybody who knows someone at the state level, a state senator, a state representative, a state assembly person, whatever they're called in your state. Take that to them and ask them to sponsor a bill just like this for your state.
Yeah.
Because that makes it a lot harder. You know, somebody said, well, it's already in law. Why are you doing it again? Well, because I'm doing it, putting it in the Constitution, because one legislature cannot bind a succeeding legislature. So we can pass something in 19 and then lose the elections in 21, and everything that we passed in 19 can be undone. But you put it in the Constitution, it's going to take them at least 6 years to try to undo it. That gives us time to get ourselves together and come back and say, okay, it ain't done yet.
Right.
We ain't overcome yet.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. And, yeah, because I know here in New York, I don't know if it's in the Constitution, but I know for sure, like polls close at 9. If you're online at 9, even if the line is down the street, round the corner, everybody that's on that line will vote.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I stand in line with people on election night, and I'm up for re-election this time, but for some reason nobody chose to run against me. So I'm unopposed. Guess what? Let me tell you the coolest thing.
Yes.
This is the first election that my son can vote in, and he was so happy to show me that he colored in the bubble next to my name.
Aw, that's sweet.
It's like,
But that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's the kind of excitement I feel like is missing, Yeah. And it's funny. Yeah. I think, and I guess that was another thing that President Obama said today when he was talking about, like, with young people, meaning like children, you know what I'm saying? People that can't vote, really helping them to understand, just even with little things like about using your voice, like how, the democratic process works just inside of like your household, or like, but he said another thing, it's like, but oftentimes, we come from spaces where like, no, and with children especially, you're not supposed to be heard, you're just supposed to be seen. But there should be lessons in there somewhere about like, how do you use your voice? How do we vote? Make sure that, if, even something as simple as like, what we're going to all go out to dinner, who wants to go to this restaurant and who wants to go to that restaurant? You know what I mean? Just to kind of understand voting, you know what I mean? Before you get to the higher levels of it,
So here's where you can start talking about it with children. School board.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Remember, what was it, 2016 and 17, they had all these stupid bathroom bills that, and you know what? Every state that was passing that, it came up from the school board. And it came up from the school board, and in most cases, it passed overwhelmingly. You know why? Because every time there was an open seat, the people who understood the power of the school board ran somebody. We didn't show up, they won.
Right.
We keep talking about our schools are not funded the right way, and they're dilapidated, and and our teachers don't get support, and we got old books, and we got leaky roofs and all that sort of thing. Guess what? The school board is the one that delegates what the budget is going to be.
And
right?
I think that goes back to, though, what I was saying about how people don't understand the process. So it's like, if you don't understand the power of the school board, you just, you might show up at meetings every once in a while or whatever, but you don't really understand the entity as a whole, then it's not necessarily going to be in you to think that you can be part of that because you don't get it. And I think a lot of us will sort of, fade to the back a lot of times because we don't feel comfortable saying that we don't know what it is and we don't understand how it works. And so that's why it's kind of like that, going back to that education piece, because as we know, there are systems in place that have wanted us not to understand,
Yeah.
Wanted us not to know, so that has been successful in some degree, because there are definitely certain demographics of folks that just don't know and feel like it's not for them or not about them or is not thinking about them. So why should they get involved?
So, and here's what I say again. Please, you have the platform. There are other people who have this platform or something similar to it. Please, everybody who has an opportunity to bring people on like me, they don't have to be in elected office. They can be, president of NAACP. They can be, work with Make It Work. They can be with Faith Organizing Alliance, whatever. Somebody who understands how to connect the dots. Bring them on. Continue to talk about this and continue to show people why it's important. After this is over, continue to do that, because if we don't, we're going to fall right back into it. It's like, one of the reasons that diets don't work is because people only stay on them for a little while.
Right.
And then after a while, they're like, child, I'm going to have me some chicken. Give me some chicken.
Fried chicken, not that baked chicken.
Fried chicken. And that chocolate cake, is this piece big enough? No. Oh, for you? Yeah, you take that and give me the rest of it. Yeah, right? And so that's why diets don't work. And so the reason people think that voting doesn't work is because they try it once, and then when they don't see immediate results, then they say it doesn't work. And the people who want to keep us in bondage are counting on that. Let me say this real quick. We have, and we know it already, there is structural racism in place in this country. In August, and I don't know if I had done it when I was on the last time, but in August, I brought a bill. And it's Senate Concurrent Resolution 1. And if you want to find out what it is, you can go to the Nevada State Legislature and put in Senate Concurrent Resolution 1, or just put in Nevada Senate Concurrent Resolution 1, 2020. Right. And this is what it does. It declares racism as a public health crisis.
Hello.
You know what that's going to do? It's going to not only dictate how the policies that have previously been passed and employed, we will now have to look at them through the lens of structural racism.
Yes.
We will have to look at them, I don't care if it's not healthcare. I'm talking about education too. I'm talking about employment. I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about why Black women are more likely to die in childbirth than white women. I'm talking about all that, everything that affects our lives, to include climate change.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Climate change. And obviously, it's going to have something to do with the policies that we now pass and employ about public health. Again, whoever's watching, if you know somebody like me, tell them to carry something like this, because you see, if we can't get that done at the federal level, and let me back up. One of the reasons why progress is so slow is because many people think you have to get all of that done at the federal level.
Right.
Some things you can. Something like this, get it done at the local level. And once you get it done at the local level and people understand what it means to them, now you got somebody who's running for federal office that runs on this.
Yes.
Racism is a public health crisis.
Yeah, and absolutely. Yes, yes, and yes.
These are the things that you do, and I'm gonna say this too. I don't know how much more time we have, but let me say this.
Yes, go ahead.
So, the current occupant in the White House sued to take all of the undocumented people out of the census, right? Well, the federal judge ruled today he can't do that.
Right.
This is why it's important, because they may be undocumented, but they are going to need services, and the same services that many of our people who caught a bad break and got bad paper now are going to need, because they can't get a job.
Right. And people can't work because of COVID.
Exactly. So the people who are undocumented, they're not our enemy. Our enemy is racism and all of the structures and the systems that have been in place so long that they have become almost normalized.
Yes. Hello.
And I'm saying ain't nothing normal about refusing somebody a job, or a doctor not listening to a patient because they're Black. There's
Right.
nothing normal about that.
Right.
Racism is a public health crisis.
Absolutely, it is. And we saw this. And if you didn't know it before, I mean, we saw it with COVID. Like, you could just see the disparities. Like, everything was just brought to the surface. Yeah. It's like, and so, yeah. So finally, because we are, always the time. But one thing that I've been saying to people, and, maybe I need somebody else to kind of say it so people understand. So for some folks, again, it's kind of like, I feel like everybody's sort of been like in their feelings about this election. Like, oh, I don't know, about this person. I don't know if this person's got a Black agenda. I don't know if this person, and it's like, oh. And I'm just like, wait a minute, just to be blunt, like, this is a very much a F your feelings election, meaning like you need, because it's really not about, like, this is not personal right now. Or maybe I should say, like, it's about your life. Like, it's really about whether you want to, see, this thing implode, or you want to really see some forward movement in a positive way. And I keep saying to people, because, there's this thought that's like, well, it's sort of like that Obama thought, like, you're going to elect these people and then everything's going to be, sweet as pie. I'm like, no, that is not it. It's like voting is just one step in this long journey. So that's why I've been just saying to folks, like, like, get out of your feelings. And, like, people are like, oh, we're voting for the lesser of two evils. I'm like, we've been voting for the lesser of two evils for decades. You know what I'm saying? But this is deeper than just voting for lesser of two evils. So can you just talk about that a little bit? Because I feel like I'm like speaking to the air sometimes.
You know what? And that's another jar of Kool-Aid that they put in our community. The lesser of two evils. Always remind people, you're going to vote for a president, not the Pope. Okay? This is not who you're going to send your Valentine's Day card to. This is looking at somebody who has your best interest. And are they going to check off all the boxes? No, they won't. But what you do is you look at the other side and see if at least they are looking at your interest as well and as thorough. Okay, it's not about the lesser of two evils. In 2016, it wasn't the lesser of two evils. People bought that, and that's how they suppressed the vote. So all you got to do right now is you heard herd immunity. You see all of these rallies that he's having with packing all these people in. Okay, and guess what's happened? Every place that he has gone for these rallies where people are not wearing masks, their numbers are going the wrong way. To include Nevada. We were just about to level off. He came in here twice. Now today I read we got 780 new cases.
Wow.
He was just here 2 weeks ago. All right. So we got to look at this thing like, here's somebody who is bound and determined to let this virus run its course through the entire population. And you know what? Here's a calculation, because people keep saying it. People of color are more likely to get it and more likely to die from it.
Yeah.
If you don't like Black folks and you don't want to pull the trigger, what do? Genocide. Okay. So this is not the lesser of two evils. This is about our health. This is about our life. Okay. And if you can't vote for you, then you vote for the person who is going to need somebody on their side if they get stopped by the police and get roughed up. Okay, because one of the things that Biden and Harris want to do is to establish a national definition of the use of lethal force.
Hello.
Hear him talk about that? No. Okay. You ain't. It's not Christmas card. It's a birthday card. None of that. You're voting for the president. You're not voting for the Pope. Okay. If you need somebody that got your kind of religion, go to church.
Yes.
and let me end with this. Because this election is so important. Don't let them dampen your spirits. I tell people all the time, say, because if they can dampen your spirits and make you think that there's nothing you can do and they're just going to have their way, then people kind of walk around and they're like, oh my God. I say, no, don't do that. Let's vote. And when we vote and we take other people to the vote and we know we're voting in numbers, here's what we do. We watch them sweat, because they know when we vote, things change. When we vote, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. That's what I'm talking about. Okay?
Yes. That's how you end. You end on a song.
Yeah, keep a song in your heart. We're gonna do this.
We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. You know, I really feel good about this. And I just feel like I said, I understand that this is one step in many steps, but I feel very confident that we're gonna move through this step and then we're just gonna, keep on moving through the other steps, So I'm so appreciative and thankful for you coming back on the show again. This was yeah. Oh, you're going to come back. Listen, the show is not going to end. We're going to end the season. The season's going to end on the 14th of November. I'm going to, have some Thanksgiving. And then we're going to come on back. So, yeah, I'm not going anywhere because we got a lot of stuff to do. And I'm like I said, this was the call. So I'm here to answer.
We're gonna get it done. We're gonna get it done.
Vote.
Vote. Life depends on it because it really does. It really.
Thank you so much, and you have a good rest of the evening. I know it's early where you are. It's only 6:30. I know it's late where I am. So but thank you again for being here. We'll be in touch.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go and turn on the TV. There's supposed to be a debate, and I know one is going to be presidential, and I know the other is going to be Bozo the Clown.
I know. You do it for me. We'll talk about it later.
All right.
Have a good night. So good to see you. Love you too.
Okay, take care. Okay, good night.
Oh, it's always so awesome to have Senator Spearman on. I just want to say thank you to her one more time. And thank you all for tuning in. I'm glad you all decided to be here with us for this at this time. Yeah, because I know there's other things you could be doing. There's other things. So as always, I'm always running a little over, but that's all good. I decided I was going to stop saying that, but then I just said it. So, as usual on the show every week, I take time to honor a sister who has fallen, who's been killed by the police or misogyny, white supremacy, whatever the case may be, patriarchy. So this week I was, I was stopped, I always say, I feel like the women who I find really find me. So this week, the sister that I learned about was a woman by the name of Kathryn Johnston. And here she is. And I know you're like, what? Because she's an elder. Yes. So in 2006, November 21, Kathryn Johnston was killed by undercover police in her home in Atlanta, Georgia. And she was 92 years old. And I know that's crazy. I had to just take a pause and be like, she was 92 years old. She was born in 1914. How do you make it all the way to 92 years old and end up getting killed by the police? So officers entered her apartment on a no-knock warrant, claiming that they were looking for a man that they had sold drugs to earlier. They said that they had come to that apartment earlier. Somebody had sold them drugs, so they were going back to then arrest that person. Again, it's undercover. Of course, no knock. So they did not identify themselves as they came busting into her apartment. And Ms. Johnston, she had an old revolver, which she had, according to her neighbors, she had for protection. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But she fired that weapon. And in turn, the police shot 39 times into her apartment at her, 6 bullets hitting her and instantly killing her. 39 times. So why did Miss Johnston have a firearm in her house? Well, it so happens that she was living in a high crime neighborhood, in which recently in the time, at that time, another elder sister had actually been raped in her community. So she had obtained a firearm to protect herself. And that was, So when the police realized that they actually had the wrong house, they planted drugs inside the apartment to cover their tracks. Okay, feel me. We know about this. They planted drugs inside the apartment to cover their tracks. At trial, actually, they got, the officers actually ended up pleading guilty. And one of the officers actually confessed to planting the drugs in the apartment. They actually also tried to get an informant to say that they had purchased cocaine at that apartment that day, all kind of shenanigans that went down at the expense of this woman's life, this elder sister. So in, not usual events, because usually, police officers aren't charged, aren't sentenced, aren't indicted. But in this case, all 3 officers were charged, found guilty, and sentenced to prison. And in 2010, Ms. Johnston's family was awarded $4.9 million to settle the wrongful death suits. And then in 2019, the Kathryn Johnston Memorial Park opened in Atlanta near her home where she was slain. So there is the park. It's a beautiful park. But again, 2006, this happened. 2019 is when this park was erected and all these things happened, So, like we often have this idea that, the only people that are out here being hurt, irreparably harmed are young people, but clearly, this elder sister, 92 years old, that's somebody's grandmama, that's somebody's great grandmother. It's ridiculous. And again, no knock warrants. So this no knock warrant situation has to be done every state. No knock warrants still exist in many states. But it's situations like this and many others that are like, don't warrant a no knock warrant. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm lighting this candle for Miss Johnston, because if I knew her, she'd have been Miss Johnston, because she's an elder. And just sending love to that family, because again, that park just got finished last year. So that family, those people, that community are still, very much thinking about her and that incident that happened with her. So again, say her name, Kathryn Johnston, and thinking about all our elder sisters. I mean, it's ridiculous that happened to her. It's also ridiculous that she was needing to have a firearm at her place because another elder sister had been raped in her community. Let's think about that for a second as well. So I just want to send love, and again, just lighting this candle for our sister, Miss Kathryn Johnston. And with that, we have come to the close of another episode of Punanny Politixxx. Again, I can't believe, I can't believe that we're here again. So what do I always say at the end? Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you for everybody that has subscribed so far. We have like 200 subscribers. I'm very excited about my 200 subscribers because, I didn't have 200 subscribers before. So although I'm still very much looking to get toward that 1,000 number and beyond, because then we can do a lot of fabulous things at 1,000 and beyond on YouTube. So follow Blackbush on the YouTube channel. Even if you watch it on Facebook, follow the YouTube channel so that, I can get the numbers and we can do more and more and more. And like Senator Pat said, like I'm going to be here. Like I'm going to be closing the season shortly after the elections, but then I'm going to just regroup and then we're going to come back. Like in the spirit of RuPaul, as I've been saying this whole time, in the spirit of my spirit, RuPaul, season 2 is going to come back and be even more fabulous. So, you follow the YouTube channel or subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then follow on IG at Punanny TV, on IG and Twitter. Next week is Halloween. I can't believe it. Man, we're at the end of the month. Crazy. Next week is Halloween. We're at the full moon again. This is the second full moon of the month. And we're going to have a special guest, the founder of Brass Burlesque, Dawn Crandall, aka Aurora Borealis. So it's going to be great. You know, I figured, it's a great time. It's Halloween. Dress up. Why not have my girls on here who like to dress up? You know what I'm saying? And Dawn is definitely one of those people. So I'm excited, and we're going to be talking to her about all things Brass Burlesque. And I think that is it for today, because I gave you all the voting info. If you're not sure about all that voting info, you can always, again, follow my IG page. I'll have all that information up there on Punanny Politixxx TV. You can always go back and watch the broadcast again. Oh, how can I leave without tomorrow night? Oh my God, how can I forget? Tomorrow night, I'm going to be a guest. I'm going to be a guest on In the Groove, hosted by Odu Adamu. And we are going to be talking about Punanny Power, because, that's what we do, with Nona Hendricks and Sue Webley. I am very excited about that. That is not going to be here on this channel. That is going to be on Facebook Live at Rock My Soul Media, or on YouTube at Rock My Soul Media. 7 p.m. tomorrow. We're going to be talking about all things sexy in the music biz. From a woman's perspective, woman's point of view. So please tune in. You get to check out Mama Funk, myself, Sue Webley, Odu Adamu, and we're going to be getting into it. So tune in tomorrow. Yeah, that's going to be so much fun. I'm really excited about that. All right, y'all. So that is it. Have a fabulous night. If you can save yourself and not watch the rest of the debate, do that. Like, do something else. Watch the highlights later or something, if you want to stay informed. But I love y'all. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Always a pleasure. Always a joy. Good night.
When you recognize